At InDigital, we know the public safety professionals hold themselves to a high standard. In fact, standard doesn't do it justice. In over 25 years working alongside you, carrying millions of calls over our IP networks, your dedication has inspired us. That's why our ESI Net goes beyond industry standards, not only I3 compliant, but designed to adapt to future development for a network you can count on when it matters most. Learn more at indigital.net.
August 24th, 2016, the I Am 911 movement is born. One of my personal stories set the tone for this movement. What started out as a way to raise awareness for the reclassification issue for dispatchers quickly turned into peer support. 911 professionals from all over the world were sharing their stories. On Facebook alone, at that time, the engagements were over 34 million. It spawned a peer support session at conferences called Imagine Listening, where dispatchers shared their stories out loud or on paper. For years, I have been asked if this would ever become a book, coming June 2023, and available now for pre-order on Amazon and Barnes & Noble. From Titletown Publishing, Imagine Listening, Your Worst Day is Our Everyday. If Within the Trenches has ever taught you something, open your eyes to what it is like to be a 911 dispatcher, or has inspired you to become one, then help support us and join our Patreon. Get exclusive bonus content, one-of-a-kind swag, discounts on merchandise, ad-free early access to new episodes, and much more. To join, please visit patreon.com/WTT podcast. And if you're an industry partner, we have something for you as well. And now, for the show.
This is Jordan, and you're listening to the Code 7 Podcast Network.
Warning. This episode contains the 3 A's of podcasting: adult content, adult language, and awesomeness. You've been warned.
Welcome to Within the Trenches, true stories from the 911 dispatchers who live them.
Hey, what's going on? This is Ricardo of the Code 7 Podcast Network, and we're about to get started here with Within the Trenches, true stories from the 911 dispatchers who live them. This episode is sponsored by InDigital, a leader next-gen core services, and a big shout-out, as always, to subscribers of the podcast. Thank you so very much. I wouldn't be able to do what I do if it wasn't for all of you, but especially those of you who are watching, listening, sharing, and supporting. Thank you so much. Also, a shout-out to the IAD and Navigator for the partnership that we've had since about 2014. And they host a podcast, and we share each other's stuff. So it's been good to do that. And we are currently live here at Navigator 2023. We're in the vendor hall right now, the industry partner hall, and there's been a lot of things going on, but I have a guest with me here today, and my guest is Carrie, and she is an emergency communications specialist 1, as well as a CTO and a Q with Johnson County Emergency Communications out of Kansas. Holy shit, that was a lot of stuff to say.
It's a lot of work. That's why they can't print it all on the shirt.
Yeah, I get that. So I was trying not to bite my tongue as I was going through all of that. If you could
put a lot of shit.
Dude, that would work. That would be awesome. Maybe I'll have to make you a custom shirt that says that and shit on there. So is this your first time at the Navigator conference?
This is my first dispatcher conference at all.
At all?
Mm-hmm.
Nice. So how's it been so far?
Pretty amazing, actually.
Nice.
I mentioned this to you earlier, but since we're recording, the one person I wanted to meet here was you. So
that is awesome. That is so awesome. Thank you. Yeah. And what was awesome too, for those who are watching and listening and everything, I was coming into the hotel where all of this is, where the venue is, and you're the first person I saw. Like, I just happened to turn around. You're like, hey. I was like, hey. But I was such in a hurry. Like, I went over, gave a quick hug, and I was like, I'm sorry. I'm pressed for time. I'll be, we'll talk later. So I'm glad that we got a chance, though, and everything, because like last night, we were getting ready for this industry partner reception that they were doing, And I saw you walk by a couple of times. I think I was doing a live broadcast at the time with my homeboy Mike, and then just everything was going on. So how has all of this been for you so far?
It's been really exciting. It's kind of incredible to think about the different technology that's coming,
Yeah.
and the ways that what we do is going to be able to change to help people more and help us more. So I think seeing all of that has been the most exciting part for me.
That is awesome. Yeah, there's tons of technology. There's a lot of companies here showing what it is that they're doing, but also, the networking that you're able to do here as well. Like you end up, just even if you're walking by a group and you hear them say something, you could have a moment where you're like, we deal with that too, and maybe you might have some advice for them, and you can tell them or stop and say, can you, give us some advice or something, because like-minded individuals, and they might be dealing something with that you might have already, and you can just help each other, and that's what we're here for.
I've seen that a lot in the classes so far too. That everybody's like, me too, So you would recommend somebody coming to a conference then? Absolutely.
Nice.
You're going to meet so many people that understand you better than your run-of-the-mill friend that doesn't do this job.
True.
Your family.
True. Yeah.
They understand how we are in our heads.
Yes. Okay. And I have to say as well, a lot of times, like with my friends and family, or even with my siblings, sometimes I would say something and they would go, dude, that's fucked up. And they would say, why are you laughing at that? I'm like, okay, you don't understand because you don't come from public safety. I have to have a form of dark humor. Otherwise, I'm going to burn out, or I'll be crying more than I've been laughing. And I would rather be laughing. And it's not, don't get it twisted, it's not laughing at people who are calling in or anything like that. What I'm talking about is there are some situations that happen that people call into 911 for that you just think, is this real life?
I can't believe I just heard.
Right. Yes. It's a very unique job. There are a certain amount of people who can do it. We can. And it people say it takes a special person. That's and it does. But I almost feel like too, it's a nice way of saying it takes a person.
You have to have sense of humor. You've got to be able to do 85 things at one time.
Right.
But you also have to care.
Right there. That's what it is. You have to be human, and you have to. We're empaths, right? You have to be able to put yourself in the caller's shoes to relate, to understand. And sometimes some of those calls that come in, it's like those calls were meant for us. For maybe we have some sort of life experience that would help us help them a lot better than one of our partners. Not saying that they wouldn't do a good job, but they just wouldn't have that same experience.
Yeah, absolutely.
So how did you get involved in public safety to begin with?
Well, I worked as an insurance claims person, and it was boring, real boring. And I just thought I wanted to do something more impactful. And saw that my local center was hiring and thought, why don't I? So I applied and tested, and I can remember the first time I walked in there, and there was like 10 monitors, and I thought I was in a spaceship, basically.
Oh.
And I
like
couldn't
walking into NASA.
imagine ever learning how to navigate all of that equipment and technology, but I started day one, never looked back.
Damn. Was there a moment that you can remember that just kind of solidified that this was what you were meant to do?
Probably not for a while after training, because I think training is so up and down.
Right. Yeah.
But I think the first impactful call I took that made me realize, okay, I can handle it, and I can, I'm where I'm supposed to be.
Damn. So here's a question. With the job that you were doing before, though, do you feel like there were some aspects of that job that prepared you?
Yes.
For what you were going to be doing?
Yes. Customer service to a different degree.
Yeah.
I could talk to people on the phone all day, every day, but 911 is a different level of customer service. It's not customer's always right. It's I need this information and I'm going to help you and tell you what to do. So
right.
I think it just prepared me for the different personalities and to be adaptable to that.
I fully agree, because before I got into dispatching, my background was in retail management, and a lot of people would come in pissed off because a garment was messed up, or they felt that they didn't get the right discount or something. So you have to be able to remain calm calm and use your words to, to navigate the issue that's right in front of your face. But then, when you're on 911 with somebody, still using all those skills, but the hard part is that you're not face to face anymore. You're now piecing this puzzle together in your brain to try to paint that picture for those who are going out to assist.
And you only have your voice as the tool to get done what needs to get done.
Exactly. And that is such a powerful tool as well, because if the tone of your voice fluctuates in any single way, like that alone could change the call.
It can make a caller angry. It can make them get emotional. So yes.
And if it's their first time calling and they misinterpret your tone, they might not call again.
Right.
It's such a crazy thing. But not just that, those that are in the field on the other side on the radio, like if they hear your voice heighten, then they heighten. Yes. But it's the same way, right? Same. If you hear them heighten, especially if it's an officer or paramedic, firefighter, whichever, you know them and you know that their voice is just straight all the time. And if you hear it go up, you're like, shit, something is going down. I got goosebumps right now just talking about that.
I always tell them, like, I know your voice, even when you have all that shit all over your face and on fire. Like, I know your voice. I know when you're seeing something or something's happening to you that's not normal, not supposed to be happening. And
exactly.
I always check on you. I always show up because I know you.
Yeah.
People.
There you go. It's a big family, because you see a lot of these folks more than you see your own friends and family a lot of the time. Yeah. And we had this saying in dispatch where we would say, we work 24/7, 365, and weekends, holidays, and forced overtime. Yes. And when those out in the field would ask us how we do it, we would always say that it's FM. And they would say, what is FM? And it was like, fucking magic. That's how we do it.
It is magic.
Yes. Yeah. You just make it work. So then what was the training like for you then?
Our training was pretty structured. We went through a basic 4-week academy where you learn like the basics of the equipment and how to do that. And then you get assigned to a training officer. And so when I went through, I rotated positions every day. I did phones, radio. And you go through that. I think I was about 4 or 5 months. And then they sign you off and send you off and kick you out of the nest. And training was really fun for me. I had some great trainers. And some that they taught me to laugh at myself.
That's good. That's a good thing.
Absolutely crucial because you're going to mess up. That's
right.
You're human. You're going to mess up.
Yeah.
You can't take it too seriously or it's going to eat you alive. So I had a lot of trainers that taught me to get over that hump. And
that's a good thing because either your coworkers are going to laugh with you or the officers out on the radio are going to give you shit about it. So you have to be. So my very, very first trainer when I started dispatching, what he told me was you have to have thick skin and you have to have common sense. But most importantly, you have to be human. Yes.
Mm-hmm. And you've got to have a sense of humor.
Yeah, all of it.
Or it's going to destroy you.
Exactly. Yes. Man. I do miss it. Yeah. I do miss dispatch. There's a lot of the aspects of it that I do miss. Now you're going on about 10 years, right? You're 10 years now of dispatching and everything. So looking back though, we're talking about this training and everything. However, what about when you first started? Like, was there anything that was overwhelming or even anything that surprised you going into this, not having any prior experience?
I think the thing for me, and I told my husband, like, you know me better than anybody. So if this job, if it starts to change me and I stop being me, I need you to tell me. Oh. And that was my fear, that I would hear really bad things or take really tough phone calls and it would make me change, make me harder, make me less empathetic. And I can remember one of the first calls that will always stick with me. It was horrifying, and I thought, if I can make it through this, then I can do anything. And that solidified it for me that I was I could do it. I could listen to the horrible things and
Yes.
not lose myself in the process. In fact, use those things that make me soft, ooey gooey, squishy heart, like to help and make an impact on the people I'm talking to on the phone.
See, and that's one of the things that, you know, I try to put out there a lot too, is that there are experiences in our lives, or just the way we are in general, that can help others, that we can impact them. We might not ever know that impact or those ripples, but it's there.
Every day.
Yeah.
Every single day.
I remember hearing from someone, and I can't for the life of me remember who said this, but they said that they keep a journal with them and they write down their wins, you know, no matter how small it might be, because sometimes those small ones are the biggest ones.
Yep.
So they write those down so that when they take a hard call, or they're just not, they're hurting, really, you know, struggling, whichever, they look at those to remember.
This is why I do it.
Exactly. Yeah. That's an awesome thing. And it's something that I wish I would have done. Like, I started writing a lot about my calls, but those wins, some of them are there, but I wish I would have written a lot more of those down. They're memories, but sometimes I'll be talking to my family, to my siblings rather, and they'll say, "Where did that come from?" And I'll say, I don't know, because I had that. I guess that one was buried.
Buried down
Yeah,
deep.
yeah, and then it comes out. But that's why also conversations like this are important.
Yeah. Yeah. You have to be able to have real conversations with people. In fact, you've been posting lately a lot of stuff that it was the, like, if I could tell you one thing.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And how many of those just resonate when I read them. I'm like, oh my God. That, like so many of those things that you want to tell the new people when they're coming in, or you want to tell the seasoned people because they've forgotten. And
right.
You have to have those conversations to keep each other real and accountable.
Right, exactly. Because sometimes people, you know, and this is in any profession. It's not just in 911, but in any profession, you know, sometimes you become complacent. Sometimes you become jaded, or you become the crusty one, you know? And I feel like it's always good to remember where you come from, where you started, how you started, because it helps to, in lack of a better way to put it, take the crust away.
Soften your crust.
Yes, exactly.
Yes. Because
you remember those times, especially when you got new people coming in, you know, for a long time, especially when I had first started, it was that, you know, we're not going to talk to you, or we're not going to learn your name until you've made it through. And that sucks, because you're going into a job where you're supposed to be family. You're supposed to be a team.
Yes. And you have to welcome them in with open arms, or they're not going to buy in.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. And they're going to end up leaving. Yeah. So when you're able to give that acknowledgement, or for those new people that are coming in, instead of us eating our young, let's remember what it was like for us when we first started.
That's what I always tell people.
Yeah.
Remember how you felt when you walked in that door, when you saw all these monitors and you saw and heard things. Like, remember, you were naive. This was new for you. This was scary for you. That's how they feel.
Yes, exactly. Because I remember walking in that first time in the Central Dispatch and seeing one person doing everything and eating at the same time, and me thinking, am I going to be able to do this shit? Because they are working, all of them are working like a well-oiled machine, and this is overwhelming.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
I think it took 3 years to learn how to cheek food and talk at the same time.
Yeah, go into squirrel mode. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And it always happens, right? You finally get a chance to eat, and then you take that bite. For me, the first time something like that happened, I was, my dumbass, I was eating a steak. Yes. We have well, it was leftover steak, but either way, I had it, and I heated it up, sat down, I was on main phones, take that first bite, and I had to shove it on the side, and it stayed there until I had a moment to mute the phone.
And chew.
Yeah, and chew really fast, and then unmute. Yeah. And one time I thought I hit mute, and it's just me just chomp, chomp, because I replayed it. I was like, damn it, I can hear myself.
I can hear myself chewing. Yeah.
Oh man. And this is what happens in 911.
Mm-hmm. one of many things.
So, as we're kind of talking about this, and only if you feel comfortable sharing, of course, but, some of those earlier calls that you had taken, or even a call that kind of sticks with you.
A call that will always stick with me, which I've mentioned, it was a 14-year-old girl. She found her 11-year-old brother hanging in a closet.
Oh my gosh.
So going through that protocol, getting her to get him down. And of course she was hysterical. Think about what that looks like from the eyes of a 14-year-old girl finding her little brother. So it took a lot to convince her to get him down and touch him. But then we were able to give him breaths, do CPR. And in the midst of all that, their mom came home. So we had a rush of emotion all over again when mom walked in the room. Lots of screaming, lots of crying. And I was 3 weeks into training. So it shouldn't have been like, my trainer always tells me, like, I shouldn't have had to take over that call. You shouldn't be able to handle it. But I did.
Right. Yeah.
We did CPR. We did the breathing. They got there and he wasn't dead. Like, we got him back.
That's amazing.
And thinking about, I can remember two things getting off the phone. One, I wanted to puke.
I can just imagine. Yes. Yeah.
And the second, all of these people that I was trying to get to know and come into work with, they clapped for me. And I was like, these people are messed up. Like, why are they clapping?
Yeah.
But it was because they were trying to encourage me and be like, how the hell did you do that?
Right.
On week 3.
Yes, exactly.
And that was
that's a big thing.
Me, knowing like, okay, I can do this.
That wow. That is awesome.
Yeah. So I'll never forget that. Ever.
Of course. Yeah, especially because you had everyone there as well. You had that support system.
Yeah.
That doesn't always happen. And also what doesn't always happen is that scenario, that type of scenario, it doesn't always have that type of outcome.
Very rarely.
Right, exactly. And the fact that you also, something that we don't always have in dispatch, closure.
Almost never do you get closure.
Yes.
So knowing that he lived, that was actually like the weight of going, okay, that was me. I helped her get him down. I helped her breathe for him. That's a pretty tremendous feeling.
Oh, for sure. Yes, definitely. And that's also, a story and an experience that you have for anybody else new that's coming in, or even not even new, maybe someone who's been there as long as you, or even longer than you, that if they take something similar and maybe doesn't have the best outcome, you can tell them that story. And it's not like to say, oh, well, mine was a save or whatever. No, it's not that. It's just to say that this can happen, this outcome can happen. And you did everything that you could, you did make a difference.
Did everything you're supposed to do.
Right.
And you made an impact today.
Exactly. Yes.
To me, I think even on the ones that, if you asked anybody I worked with, they'd tell you I'm a black cloud of doom. If there's a gnarly call happening in our county, I probably am the call taker. So for as many...
The magnet.
Yes. Magnet.
Yes.
Add that to my shirt.
You don't even have to say the Q word.
No, they hate it when I do that too.
Oh, but no.
For as many good outcomes, there's been more that, you hear the triage type black and you're like, damn. But also you gave that family hope for a minute. You gave them something to do, something to focus on.
You were there with them.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that, to me, is just as important as the code saves.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. And that's one of one of the big pushes of the I Am 911 movement as well, is the reason I worded it the way I worded it was because I'm never going to meet those people, right? I'm never going to meet the folks that for that story that I put out for that first call. But if they were ever to read it, or anyone to read it and had something similar, they would know that there was someone with them that entire time, that they were not alone. And I'm in agreement with you. In these calls that don't have the best outcome, somebody was there with them.
Yeah. And they'll tell you. Those are, to me, some of the more meaningful ones that really stay with you. They'll tell you at the end of the call, like, thank you. Thank you for just staying with me.
Right.
Thank you for listening to me. Thank you for, and that's obviously not why you do the job. But,
right. It's also not about the money, because there's We don't get paid the greatest, but it's rewarding.
Super.
And just like you're saying, we're there with them.
Yep. We're there with them on their worst day. If you get to deliver a baby, you're there with them on their best day.
Yes.
So many highs, so many lows. There's nothing like it.
It's a casserole of confusion sometimes.
Mm-hmm. It's a good casserole.
Oh, right. Yes. It is a rich casserole. Yes. There's so many different layers and variables that go into this profession that it's sometimes hard to explain it, right?
Yeah.
And you can say everything that's going on, and someone who is not in the profession will just look at you like, huh? Really? Like that's what really happens? You guys are not just answering the phone? You're like, hell no.
So much more than that.
Yeah.
The other thing I think is that because we're multitaskers, like we could be having a conversation, I'll stop and do 18 other things and come right back to that sentence. And somebody who's not a dispatcher will be like, what?
Yes, I know exactly what you mean. Yeah, a lot of times when there wasn't anything going on, like one of the things that we would, believe it or not, sometimes in 911, there is nothing going on. We're just chilling, which is good. People don't need help. However, we are there to help. So what we would do is we would play Scrabble. Mm-hmm. and just hang out, and we would just be talking about whatever bullshit is going on. Phone rings, just like that.
Lights off, let's go.
Yes. Go into the call, hang up the call. So that word right there, I don't think that's the right word. Right. We're going to have to look it up. Yeah. And you just go right back into it.
Yes. And I think that like new people coming in, that's the thing to me that always sticks with them. They're like, you were literally in the middle of a sentence. Why? And you're like, oh yeah, in 2 years, you'll be there too. Right. Exactly. Yeah. And you're right. I feel like it takes about 2 or 3 years to really dial in. Mm-hmm. All of the skills and everything, because of course, you're confident in what you're doing, but there's always a little bit of, can I do this or that? And even years later, you're always learning something. Yeah. But I'm kind of feel like 2 to 3 years, you're dialed in and you're really confident.
You're in that moment.
But then I still feel like every single day I hear something that I've never heard before. I'm like, okay. Right. Yes. Because it is the moment that you think that you've heard it all, mm-hmm. that something else happens. You're like, oh my God, what? I always want to, the thing that gets me in trouble on the phone is I always want to say, how did you do that? Right. Yes. So one thing that I always wanted to do, but never got, well, I would have never done it because you'll understand why. So I'm, dispatching in Michigan, a big hunting area where I was at, and people would sometimes call in for a be on the lookout of a person dressed in camouflage walking around with a rifle. And I always wanted to say, how did you see them? Because they're wearing camouflage. Didn't you ever want to say, though, like it's hunting season? There are lots of people walking around. And we would straight up tell people that. But that one humorous part, I always wanted to say, don't you just see like the rifle going by itself? It's floating in midair. Right, exactly. Yeah. I say the same thing to my crews when we tell them to stage and they don't feel like it's necessary to stage, or they'll get too close. And I'll ask them afterwards, like, were you in your camouflage truck today? Because fire trucks are big and red. Yes. They don't hide. Exactly. But that's also kind of like when there's a car fire and someone says, can you give me a vehicle description? Give me a vehicle description. Yeah, it's like, it's the one that's on fire. Look for the one engulfed in flames. Yeah, because it's no longer a blue truck. It's an orange. Right. Yes, a burnt orange at that. Yeah, exactly. See, there's that humor. Gotta have it. Oh, my Lord. Well, it has been amazing to have you on the podcast here to share your story, to learn more about you. But I've got one last question for you as we go into the wrap up. Yeah. So with all of your years of experience, everything that you've done, if you could go back in time with the knowledge that you have now to talk to yourself in the beginning, what advice would you give yourself? I think the advice I would give myself is to hang on, because training's tough, and it's tough for a reason. Yeah. It's tough to make you see that you can handle this job. So I think the advice I would say is, like, you have this inner fear of changing and losing who you are, but that's not going to happen. This job has only made me love people more and made me more protective and more caring. All the things I thought I was afraid of losing, I haven't lost. I've just grown in.
Wow.
So I think that's what I would tell myself, is just hang on to that. Don't lose that.
Amazing. Perfect. That is awesome. Thank you so much again for being on. This has been awesome. Finally get to meet and everything and do this episode. This has been hella good. Thank you for the job that you do. Thank you so
for
much.
what you do.
I appreciate it.
On behalf of dispatchers everywhere.
You're going to make me cry, man. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate the kind words more than you know. And for those who are watching and listening, if you have any comments or questions, or you want to be a guest on the show, you can email us, and that's going to be wttpodcast@gmail.com. You can follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. However, to make it way easier, you can check the bottom left hand of the screen. But if you're listening on audio, it is going to be links.co, and that's links with 2 i's.co/WTT podcast. It's my bio page. You can find all the social media there, follow and like, all that good stuff. You can also become a patron or Facebook subscriber and help support us. All that good stuff you can find on that website. So make sure to check that out. That's right. The merch shop is in there as well. Yeah. Finally, I have it all in one spot. This episode has been sponsored by InDigital, a leader in next-gen core services. A big shout out to subscribers of the podcast as always. And once again, to the IAAD here at the Navigator Conference. Thank you so very much. This can be seen on Facebook, YouTube, as well as Twitter and LinkedIn Live. If you're listening to your favorite podcast, you can listen anywhere that you listen to podcasts on Apple Podcasts, on Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Spotify, your favorite podcasting app, and within the trenches.net. Have a good one, everyone, and we'll see you in the next one.